Maybe no trade deadline acquisition has had as big of an impact on the landscape of the NBA title picture as the Lakers' February 1987 trade for Michael Thompson. Thompson would make his Laker debut on February 15th in a Sunday matinee against the Boston Celtics, in which teams were battling out for the all-important home court, entering the game with identical records of 37-12. The Lakers would win that game and many more after that, finishing the season 28-3 and cruising to a title against the suddenly aging and injured Celtics team. They'd return an identical team the following year and start off the season 45-9 before a hamstring injury to Magic Johnson would slow down that Lakers team. LA would finish the season 500 and have had their toughest battles in the Western Conference playoffs by far after years of cruising to the finals, needing the full 7 games to knock off the Jazz and Mavericks to make it back to their 7th finals of the decade and take their crack at becoming the NBA's first repeat champion since the 1968-69 Celtics. Meanwhile, out east, the Detroit Pistons would finally usurp the Boston Celtics and appear in their first NBA Finals in franchise history, setting up a matchup between the league's top point guards and best of friends. The younger and fresher Pistons would jump on LA early, stealing home court right off the bat as the Lakers would come out and start Game 1 flat after their first 2 7-game wars against the Jazz and Mavericks. Following that game, Magic Johnson would contract the flu and wouldn't be nearly at 100% for a must-win Game 2. Magic still duked it out, however, scoring 23 points and dishing out 11 assists to even the series. He wouldn't be 100% for Game 3 either, but he and the Lakers retook control of the series, ensuring that the finals would make its way back to LA for at least the Game 6. Detroit, then behind 40-plus thousand people in the final 2 games of the Pontiac Silverdome, got complete efforts from their all-starting 5. Particularly huge games from Isaiah Thomas in Game 4 and big games from Adrian Dantley and Joe Dumars in Game 5. After the Pistons held on in Game 5 to take a 3-2 series lead back to LA, the Piston faithful stormed the floor in the final game at the Silverdome. The series returned to LA with Los Angeles still being favored but being in the same predicament the Celtics were in just 3 years prior when the Lakers closed out the finals in Boston in Game 6. The Pistons smelled blood and wouldn't let up. Midway through the third quarter of Game 6, Isaiah Thomas badly sprained an ankle and looked like he'd be shelved, as well as setting up a 7th game as the Lakers were well ahead. However, Thomas returned at the end of the quarter and rallied his young group. Thomas got fire, scoring 25 points in the quarter to rally his team for a fourth-quarter lead. Thomas would continue his gritty and astonishing play, putting the Pistons on the absolute brink of the title. Detroit would have a 3-point lead with a minute left and were one stop away with under 20 seconds to go, but were victims of the worst call in NBA history. Seriously, the worst. LA would go ahead on 2 Kareem free throws and force a Game 7 at the Forum and would ride a legendary performance from James Worthy, who was already having a great series in his own right. 36 points, 16 rebounds, and 10 assists was what Los Angeles needed and what James Worthy needed to win Finals MVP. With Isaiah Thomas clearly limited, the Lakers would hold off a late fourth-quarter charge from the Pistons and back up Pat Riley's parade guarantee from 12 months earlier as the Lakers would cement their status as the team of the 80s. As if there was any doubt this wasn't the best NBA Finals in history, this was the league's most important. In 1979, the NBA was but a fringe professional sports league with players that didn't resonate or connect at all with the everyday American at the time. The league had a massive image problem. Goodness, the NBA Finals were on tape delay, for crying out loud. But following Magic Johnson and Larry Bird's arrival into the league for the 1980 NBA season, and fortunately for the league itself, the players would wind up in the league's 2 most identifiable teams, the Lakers and Celtics both took off and took the league with it. LA would grab 2 titles in Magic's first 3 years in the league alongside perennial MVP Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, while Bird would take the Celtics from worst to first and win his first title a year later. Finally, the teams met in the 1984 NBA Finals. The series had a massive amount of hype, and for obvious reasons. Celtics versus Lakers, Bird versus Magic, East versus West, Blue Collar versus Hollywood, White versus Black. This series not only had America's most intriguing and blossoming sport being played at the highest of level ever to that point, Kareem, Bird, Magic, Parrish, Worthy, McHale, Scott, Dennis Johnson, McAdoo, Maxwell, Ainge, Wilkes, Wedman, all players who had been all-stars at least one point of their career or another, but also, yes, the incredible backdrop, the league's biggest rivalry being renewed with the rematch of Bird and Magic's infamous 1979 NCAA championship game, which revitalized college basketball in its own right, and yes, the polar opposites. The divisions were so captivating that you could not watch this series and be lukewarm. You were either rooting for the Lakers or the Celtics. Thus, the reason as to why both of these franchises have 2 massive national fan bases to this day. Anyways, the Lakers, despite not having the home court, came into the series favored and show why right off the bat, cruising to a victory in Game 1 at the Garden. LA looked too athletic and too fast for Boston, and the Lakers looked to put their foot on the throat in Game 2, holding a 2-point lead and the ball in the game's waning seconds. The Lakers could not kill the clock, and James Worthy would toss a lazy errant pass intercepted by Celtics guard Gerald Henderson, who scored a game-tying layup which shocked the Lakers as Boston would go on and win in overtime. Despite knowing they had a golden opportunity slip, LA returned home and obliterated Boston, running them off the floor in Game 3, prompting Larry Bird to challenge his teammates and call them sissies. After this humiliation, it looked as if it was a foregone conclusion LA would wrap up the series, but Boston didn't take their graves being dug too lightly. Backup guard ML Carr began taunting young Celtics six-man Kevin McHale about being soft. McHale's response? This very play single-handedly turned the series on an instant. The series would get chippy, LA would lose their cool, and Boston would play with a vengeance. After Game 4 went to overtime, LA would once again choke. Magic and Worthy missed 4 crucial free throws, and Bird hit this game winner over Magic Johnson, giving the Celtics a shocking win, which stole back the home court and wrestled control of the series. The Celtics would play from ahead from this point on. Game 5 was played in Boston. The non-air-conditioned Boston Garden was some 95 degrees at tip-off. The Lakers couldn't handle the heat, literally, and Bird submitted his own legendary performance and put the Celtics on the brink of the title. The series returned to Boston for a Game 7 on the famed parquet floor after LA staved off elimination at home, and once again it came down to the wire in sweltering Boston Garden. However, LA proved they were not yet ready to break the Boston jinx. 2 late steals by Dennis Johnson on Magic Johnson proved to be the difference as the Celtics defeated the Lakers in the original matchup of the famed 1980s duels, winning their 15th NBA World title. But it wasn't just the Celtics who won. The series set ratings records that still hold to this day in some aspects. The NBA was now firmly entrenched in the sporting landscape nationally, planting the seeds for its worldwide expansion over the last 30 years.